This book is Saving San Francisco, Relief and Recovery After the 1906 Disaster. The 1906 earthquake is fascinating because literally at a certain moment in time, April 18th, 1906, 5:12 in the morning, the city stops. And in a way, everyone has the same experience. And I thought if the city stops for a moment, maybe that's a great time to look at what really happened. So even when the earthquake hits and everyone feels it at the same time, you think this is sort of a really intense, shared collective experience. But what happens in San Francisco, if you think about it, is everyone experienced a very different earthquake. When I started researching 1906 San Francisco and I thought about the major fires that happened, I thought, what would I have done as a firefighter? Because the conditions were impossible. When that earthquake hit, entire buildings disappeared into liquid earth. A 4-story hotel, 2 stories disappeared, leaving only the top floors exposed. I was an academic at Stanford researching the 1906 earthquake and fire and doing what every good academic does, going to all the archives, libraries, and looking at all the documents from 100 years ago. But I was also a firefighter in San Francisco, so I thought a lot about what it meant to go to emergencies and to fight fires in the city and to see lives that people were really living and understand what it means when you're losing everything in an instant. In Marin, I found an interesting story from a small town called Fairfax. And in this story, it was from a daughter of a restaurant and hotel owner. It was a little getaway for San Franciscans who could afford it to leave the city and travel way into the country in 1905 and 1906. And after the disaster, the owner of the hotel, her father, got a message from an Italian fish and produce purveyor from North Beach. And he said, "Can I please just bring my family to camp out at your hotel? We'll stay outside while we wait for our city to recover." And he said, "Sure." And before he knew it, 80 Italians showed up in Fairfax to live outside his hotel. When I traveled to Colma, I found a really interesting story that wasn't written down. Instead, it was an object. It was a beer glass. And this is the story of this woman's grandparents who were newly married. They married in March 1906, right 1 month before the disaster. In the chaos of the earthquake and fires, they grabbed one thing, a beer glass, and walked to the edge of the city with hundreds of other working class refugees and camped out on a dairy farm, Daly's dairy farm. And they waited for the city to rebuild a home for them. And the working class men who lived on Daly's dairy farm walked every day to help rebuild the city. But what they found is that the city did not rebuild homes for them. They ended up staying on the dairy farm and turned that into their own city, a working class town called Daly City. In this book, as a historian, I tell you all about the past. But as a firefighter, I can tell you how it felt. The fires went through the city neighborhood by neighborhood, and it took 3 days for that to unfold. And that's a long time if you really are fighting fires or living through a fire taking away your home. For a city to thrive, or a city like San Francisco in 1906 to thrive, it needs literally homes for people to live in, but a sense of home, a kind of a personality and feel to the city. And when San Francisco was destroyed, city leaders, business and politicians tried to rebuild the city with their own sense of home. And by doing that, they thought, we'll take away Chinatown, we'll take away the neighborhoods for the working class and the poor, we'll make better homes, more middle class homes for everyone. And that didn't work, because what they forgot was the people of San Francisco had their own sense of home, and they held on to that and kept it and rebuilt it no matter where they were, sometimes claiming the same space they had before, like the Chinese in Chinatown, and sometimes building new neighborhoods like the working class in Daly City.
The Clayman Institute for Gender Research at Stanford University. Reinvigorating gender equality in the 21st century.